Welcome to Empowering Seniors, the web series. I'm Katherine Ambrose, your host, and I am delighted to be joined by Shana Gatchet of Parkinson Connect. And Shana has some news for families that are dealing with Parkinson's. And also, we're going to talk about the pandemic and how that's affecting Parkinson's patients, and how it's also an opportunity for you to find out more about the different types of wellness opportunities there are. So Shana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Katherine. This is so great. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to share that we have a scholarship through the local Parkinson's Association of the Plains. And I think many people don't even realize that we have a Parkinson's Association locally. But as of about a week ago, they approved a scholarship basically as a gift to offer to people who are confined to their homes and are probably struggling with, what else do we do to fight the disease? I can't get out near as much as I used to. I know I need to move more. This is really increasing my stress, which is increasing my symptoms. So what do we do? So the scholarship is available on my website, parkinsonconnect.org.
Okay.
And you can apply right there. It shoots it right to me. I'll get back with you in about 48 hours. And we'll get started. And what it is, it entails up to 2 sessions with me, either online, on FaceTime, or on the telephone. And we will figure out how to fight the disease in the parameters that we're dealing with right now.
Okay, very good. So the scholarship, it's a free opportunity. It's an opportunity for them to get some free extra help, because you do consultations and you also provide kind of a whole host of things under wellness. So just extra ways that they can fight the disease, as you said. So tell us about Parkinson's. For somebody that might be watching that's not very familiar yet with Parkinson's, maybe they've tuned in because it is a diagnosis that they think might be a possibility, or it's a brand new diagnosis. So how many people are dealing with Parkinson's?
You know, honestly, the numbers, it's interesting. Globally, there's a wide variety, and the numbers are 1 to 2 million. And so people will ask me, that's a crazy, how can we not pinpoint that a little more? And it's because many times people have Parkinson's for years before it's actually diagnosed. And so it goes misdiagnosed or undiagnosed for years because the symptoms are very subtle. And so by the time people are finally diagnosed, then obviously the statistics can be a little more exact. But when people first get diagnosed, they usually are given a medication. And they're truly not actually diagnosed until they realize that medication works. And that medication is specifically for Parkinson's disease. So really, until the doctor finds out that, yes, this medication did work, guess what? It is Parkinson's.
Wow.
Fortunately, yes. So unfortunately, what happens is then people are sent on their way, typically without a lot of resources. It's a lot of unknowns, but I'm extremely passionate about Parkinson's. As my background's in occupational therapy, and I've seen so much progress in what is supposed to be termed a progressive disease that can be turned around. And people can make progress and progress and progress if they're given the right resources.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that. I'm excited about that. And just real quickly, so is there not really a way to definitively know that you have Parkinson's? It's just if this medication works or not. It's like a guess, maybe, like it might be Parkinson's, we'll try this medication. Right. Is that how that works?
Isn't that crazy? I know. And that's so hard for us, my gosh, the greatest country on the planet, and we don't have these definitive answers, and that's hard for us to accept. But honestly, that is the reality of it.
What kind of medications, if you're allowed to say, what kind of medications might people be prescribed?
Well, one of the medications let me back up a second. When people have Parkinson's disease, it's because they lack a chemical called dopamine in their brain. Okay. And so the medication is to boost that dopamine. And if there's symptoms such as, they could maybe have come to the doctor and said, I've been stumbling a little bit more, or I noticed that I'm starting to shuffle my feet, or maybe I have this tremor, Or maybe I have a tight shoulder and we've tried to figure this out for years and we still can't figure out what it is, because muscle stiffness is also another symptom.
Yikes.
And so if that dopamine helps, that new medication helps, then they target it as, yes, it is Parkinson's. And so then there's a lot of trial and error with the medications as well, which is also difficult to understand, but honestly, that's the reality of it.
Okay. So sometimes people are given the prescriptions, and then maybe I can imagine that maybe they get a brochure, maybe they buy a book, maybe they do some research online.
Right.
Um, are there support groups for Parkinson's?
Sure. There's national support groups. There's, like I said, there's our local support group. But again, I feel like one of the reasons I started Parkinson Connect was I met a gentleman 7 years ago, and this story stuck with me and resonated with me for so long, about how he came in and he had just been diagnosed 3 months prior. And, really, if you looked at him, you couldn't tell he had Parkinson's unless you kind of had an eye for it. Well, and I said, how did you get into therapy so soon? Because that's not very typical.
Uh-huh.
It's typical when people maybe have a fall or an injury or an issue, but to seek out therapy initially is very unusual. Actually, only 11% of people do it. And so he said, my sister's a nurse, and she said, you better get your tail in the therapy and fight this disease as fast as you can. And here's why: because exercise is a natural way to increase the dopamine.
Okay.
So if we can increase that dopamine, those symptoms are going to be better. And so 7 years later, I still see this gentleman. We boxed in Rock City boxing, and he is fighting it all the way. And I will tell you, he has not slowed down. Symptoms are minimal, and it's because he's worked his tail off, but he was also given resources of how to fight it. And that's the unfortunate thing, is many people don't know what avenues to take.
Wow. I mean, he was so lucky that his
Mhm.
sister, a nurse, just happened to know, and that she gave that advice. And so I'm excited for people that are watching this video that they can get some advice that they can plug into, because how else would you know? Um,
Absolutely.
so what does the consult look like? So if they were to get the scholarship for the consult, or they just pay for a consult out of pocket, which is not expensive and so beneficial, what do you do on a consult normally when you can meet with people face to face?
Face to face, or just like we're doing right now. We talk about, what are your primary concerns? What do you want to get back to doing? I meet a lot of people who say, I just want to go to my grandkids' ball games. I just want to do A, B, and C. And they just, they want to get back to life, but they don't, for one, they're not sure if it's possible.
Mhm.
But two, most importantly, they don't know how to do it. So we talk about what their concerns are, what goals we're going to work towards. Um, what resources do they already know about? And then I just flood them with resources. Whether, with Parkinson's, there's a lot of things that people don't see. Some of the physical things are maybe that tremor or that shuffled gait and that posture that might be stooped. But what a lot of people don't see is there's so many issues with sleep and fatigue and gut health issues. And I mean, the list goes on and on, that are called the non-motor symptoms.
Okay.
So we talk about all those issues, and then help guide, kind of just detail it out, and say, how are we going to attack this, and this? And then what kind of game plan are we going to be on? And do you connect through technology? Do I send you resources on paper, through mail? Do we meet again in person? It's so uniquely, individually tailored.
And so, has an occupational therapist, that being your education background, what does occupational therapy typically do for people?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. If you asked every occupational therapist out there, we'd all have a different answer. I call it the job of your everyday. I don't care if you're a toddler and you have to learn to play, because that's your job of your day. It doesn't matter if you're getting back to work and you have a finger injury. That's what is your job that you need to get back to. So people who are maybe retired or aging, their job is to live life. What is it that makes your everyday a little bit, what is this making it more difficult, and what can we do to get that back?
Okay, very good. So with Parkinson's, how do people get back some of their stability and mobility and stave off it getting worse? What are some of the things that you specifically do to help them?
So one of the worst things, and I think I'll preface this initially, is one of the worst things people can do is nothing. It's almost like we're in this pandemic right now where we see this, I mean, or this invisible disease is attacking things and we're very fearful of it. Well, Parkinson's kind of does the same thing, and it just creeps in and creeps in, and you don't even realize how much more progressive it's getting.
Mhm.
So the worst thing people can do is absolutely nothing. The best thing is move. And it doesn't matter. There's a lot of different ways to move. And so that's what I teach. Are you the type of person who loves dance and music? Are you the type of person who loves yoga and Tai Chi? Do you love more aggressive community exercise programs? Do you like to watch videos? Do you do your own thing? Is it you and your spouse that goes for a walk? But guess what? How are you walking? I need to maybe nudge your spouse to remind you to pay attention to this part when you're walking. So there's so many details that we can hone in on.
Well, and that scared me when you talked about the shuffling, shuffling feet, the shuffled gait, because we know that anyone, if you get tired and you start to
Sure.
shuffle a little bit and you're not paying attention, that is when it can be very easy to trip over a curb or just fall. And
Absolutely.
you can have tremendous injuries from that. So how how can people maybe improve that shuffling?
So one of the things that I teach is called Parkinson Wellness Recovery, and that's I've been certified in since 2012. And so a lot of people with Parkinson's have heard of another program called LSVT Big, and it's overemphasizing all of their movements, even overemphasizing their voice, which is LSVT Loud. What that does is, Parkinson's wants to draw everything in, make it smaller, even make handwriting smaller. Their voice is smaller, their steps are smaller. So with these principles, we overemphasize everything, and that's how we fight it and counteract it. With power, it is based on the foundations of LSVT Big, that overemphasizing of activities, but it's not as regimented. It's a little more flexible to where I will incorporate some of those movements and say, hey, let's work that out when you get dressed every day and reach for your jeans to put on. Or how about, you have to reach for your shoes and we're going to reach extra far today to reach for your shoes because I just asked your wife to place them a foot farther away.
Mhm.
Or we're putting the salt and pepper on the opposite side of the table. So you actually have to exercise all day, but we figure out tricks and techniques to still move differently.
Can you repeat that? Did you say LSCT?
Uh-huh. LS.
LSCT. What is
So
that?
it stands for Lee Silverman Voice Therapy, was the initial concept of overemphasizing the voice to work on the soft voice. Then Dr. Becky Farley developed LSVT Big, so same principles, and then she went on to develop Power, which is Parkinson Wellness Recovery.
Okay, Parkinson. Okay. And there might be a lot of other things within Parkinson
Oh,
Wellness Recovery that I'm not aware of, but the thing that I'm just dying to ask you about is rock steady boxing, because everywhere I go, people will say, do you know about rock steady boxing? And why is boxing so huge? It's funny right now because boxing as a sport is
mhm.
so popular. I have a 25-year-old daughter that is just petite, cute thing. You would never know that she is a boxing fanatic. And it's so exciting listening to her talk about boxing because she lights up and just goes on and on. And that's what I see with people talking about rock steady boxing for Parkinson's. So what the heck is it?
It is the best thing on the planet. That's what it is. So in Wichita, we have a Rock Steady Boxing Wichita site, and it's at Valor Martial Arts. They have a website. There are 4 coaches. We are all either OTs, occupational therapists, or physical therapists.
Okay.
And basically, I
That's
think,
that's amazing that you are fitness coaches, but you are an occupational therapist, an OT, or a physical therapist, a PT. That level of education is phenomenal. I think that's just a tremendous mission. So I applaud you on
thank you.
that. And that's so validating for the program.
It absolutely is. And I I thank you for recognizing that, because I feel like we're top notch. So the rock steady boxing, when people get into it, well, first of all, I want to make sure people know that it's non-contact. So don't be scared.
You're not going to get pummeled.
You're not going to get flattened, I promise you. But if you think about it, and you're holding your fists up and you're going across to the right and the left and the right and the left, and then we give different combinations. So
Mhm.
you're having to think a lot about that sequence. But every time you do that, you're also crossing what we call cross midline. So you're using the right side of the brain, the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain. So all these connections are happening and all these neurotransmitters are firing, and we're just getting everything revved back up in the brain, which is, the exercise is truly brain health that helps with that dopamine to increase.
Mhm.
But I tell you what, I think there's magic in boxing gloves, because people put them on and they just become engaged in, all right, I am so ready and I am so powerful. Give it to me.
That's
And
pretty cool.
it's
And
awesome.
you teach them how to wrap their hands.
We have gloves that are a little bit easier that they can put on, and then
Ew,
inside their bigger boxing gloves.
really? I need a pair of those. Okay. So
It is the easy route.
you have a hand wrap, and then
Right.
your hand goes into the boxing glove. And then I would imagine that with some patients or with participants, that maybe you're not hitting the bag, and then
Right.
maybe with others you are.
Right. So we also wear mitts. The coaches may wear mitts. And so we'll coach them on, are we going to do a jab and a hook and a cross, and, all kinds of different techniques or sequences. But we challenge them cognitively, because that's huge in fighting this disease too.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is that jabs, hooks, crosses, uppercuts,
Yes.
you're really learning something different, which is so good for your brain, whether you are dealing with disease issues or not, really for any of us. And for empowering seniors, that's so great to be learning something totally new, because we've all been told, oh, just do crossword puzzles to
Right.
stave off dementia. And I just recently read something that said that might not really do it. I mean, really learning something new, boxing, dancing, music, just anything totally new, so that you are keeping that brain active.
Absolutely. And the research has shown that we can build new neural pathways. So we can always teach an old dog new tricks. That's what that means.
Well,
I
very
don't tell them that, but that's what that means.
okay. So if you're watching this video, you are using technology, and we know that there are many people, many boomers and older adults, that opt not to do technology. And why do you think that it's a good idea maybe to encourage some use of technology? If you have a loved one that refuses to use technology, it can be beneficial, because they can learn and keep themselves occupied. If they know how to turn on a TV and work a remote, they could also go onto YouTube or Facebook even, and learn something. And that is also good for your brain, but you can also be participating in wellness activities that way, or just learning life-changing things.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, the resources are endless. You remember the old encyclopedias.
Yes.
I mean, that was a lot of information, but this is any topic I could probably present 10 different webinars going on today on Parkinson's alone, that
Mhm.
are national or global, that people can chime into based on whatever symptom. Maybe they have questions about their nutrition, because nutrition's huge with people with Parkinson's,
Mhm.
and understanding that well. So if they're, and even if it's something about finding just a quick technique into the technology world, let's find what is priority right now.
Mhm.
But what I'm seeing, I mean, we've even done it. My son had a birthday the other day, and we did this Zoom call like we are with the whole entire family across Kansas. And what a connection it was. We couldn't be all there together
Mhm.
like we normally would, but that in itself, I mean, there's research that says, the more people isolate, this disease will creep up faster.
Yeah,
So this is a communication and a connection.
absolutely. It's like the Jetsons has come alive.
Finally.
Star Trek and all this. We really do have the ability to have phone conversations where we see our faces. And how great is that to be connected to your grandkids and great grandkids and extended, keeping in contact with nieces and nephews and cousins and friends from decades ago. The technology makes that possible. And so we applaud empowered seniors that are using technology, and we certainly encourage that. We don't want people to feel bad if they're not, but it's certainly something to consider using. And if they even just have a simple phone where they can flip the phone so that you as their therapist or their wellness coach can see something that they're trying to tell you about, that's hugely informative. And let's talk about social isolation. That wasn't a very smooth transition, but you brought it up.
Oh.
So we talk about how dangerous social isolation is all the time. That when people are socially isolated, that compounds their mindset, their depression, their physicality, everything. And so we don't like for people to be socially isolated. And now we're living in times where they're telling us to be socially distant. And I'm going to say that it's physically distant, that we are being physically distant to protect our world, to herd mentality and protect ourselves and our loved ones. So this is just a period of physical distancing, and there's no need to be socially distant. In fact, a lot of us are socializing more than ever, but we're using technology to do that. So what does social isolation do for Parkinson's patients?
So if people are typically active and out in the community, and this is a whole new ball game for them for the social isolation. See, now I can't say it either.
Sorry, I did that to you.
So what she said. So this is so different for them, and their symptoms will increase. So people will tell me, I've noticed I'm shuffling my feet more, or I can't get out of my chair like I used to, or there's no way I'm going to sit in the middle of my couch anymore because that's the squishiest part, and I know now I have to sit on the end. And so symptoms increase significantly when stress increases for people with Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, and a lot of times it's interesting because unfortunately there's also people with young onset Parkinson's. And so I have a 45-year-old gentleman that I work with, and he said, have other people, just because of this stress, have other people noticed their symptoms increasing? And he said, yeah. And I said, yes. So it can just be a subconscious worry even that's going to bring on their symptoms. But with the technology world, gosh, there's exercise classes that are live, or if that doesn't work right then, you can watch them in a little while, whenever it works, or maybe you and your spouse can do them together. Like I said, the webinars, and some of the webinars are live also. I can fill up a calendar in no time for people with Parkinson's. If we need to get them moving or active or cognitively engaged, it's very possible with technology.
So since the pandemic started hitting the United States, what kind of changes have you been aware of in the wellness world and in the occupational therapy world as far as how fast things are changing to help take care of people at home? What kind of things are going on in our community as far as wellness classes?
I think the whole transition online has been huge. I think it's probably peaked more than it's ever peaked in years. I've had to turn my whole business into online. And luckily, I'm very fortunate that I can do that. I can still coach people and educate people, because sometimes it's just a conversation and I can give a few tips and tricks and they say, oh my gosh, that worked wonders. And and then I'll follow up in 2 more weeks or something. But I think hands down, if people are if even small local businesses or exercise facilities, even the bigger ones for sustainability, if they want to stay intact and, in connection with their clients, they're doing this.
Well, I've noticed even like YMCA group exercise instructors, they're teaching Zumba out of their garage or out of their house. And so people are looking for a way to maintain those social connections because they're so important and maintain their physical health. So Well, do you think we'll ever come out of the house again after, since we're all learning how to do all this stuff?
We better.
Well, we're lucky too. We've got good weather, and so it's a good opportunity
You
for people.
know, I thought the same thing. I think we're blessed with the time of year this is happening because we do have nice weather.
Yeah. And I would imagine that that helps improve the mindset too, because mindset, I want to say mindset is everything, although that's not completely true when you're dealing with a disease.
Right?
Um,
But
it,
it's a lot of it.
it, okay, so it is a lot of it.
It's in everything we do. If you can't tell yourself here first, it's hard. But a lot of times people can't tell themselves anything because they don't know what will help or what is available or what an option is. So
Well, fantastic. I really got some good things here. Um, I really love, my favorite takeaway is one of the worst things you can do is nothing. That applies to everything, and I certainly see how that applies to Parkinson's. And so I want to thank you for your time and your wisdom today. And to those that might watch, please send us your questions, and maybe we can have Shana, maybe we can get you back on again sometime, maybe do some demonstrations, or reach out to her directly. And she can, no matter what part of the country or the world you're in, I'm sure that Shana would have some ideas on how you can connect with specialists like her. And I love your company, Parkinson's Connect, and the mission that you are on to help make life better for people and their spouses and their families dealing with Parkinson's. So thank you for being part of our Empowered Senior Network today. All right.
thanks, Catherine.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Empowering Seniors, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, I'm going to stop the recording, Shana, and I'll send you some information.
I think we're still recording.
We are, and here we go. And again, reach out to me anytime if there's anything I can help you with.
Thank